When Guardiola announced that he would leave FC Barcelona after 4 trophy-laden years at the Camp Nou, all of the footballing world knew it was the end of something truly magical. No coach before him had managed to win 2 Champions League trophies at Barcelona, that too in the space of 3 years. And while the illustrious trophy cabinet will serve as a reminder of how great that Barcelona side was, those of us, myself included, who were lucky enough to watch the Barcelona side week in, week out, remember just how amazing they were to watch. A formidable midfield made up of Iniesta and Xavi, with arguably the best player of all time, Lionel Messi, leading the line. That team was a joy to watch for all football fans around the world. The philosophy was clear, the plan was solid, the execution immaculate. The simple game of pass and play, played by the best, captivated Europe for nearly half a decade. After Guardiola left came Villanova, then Tata Martino, who both looked out of their depth as head coaches of FC Barcelona. Luis Enrique followed and with the mighty MSN conquered Europe in a similar fashion that Frank Rijkaard did back in 2006. Devastating quick football that was effective for 1 season and 1 season alone. And just like Rijkaard's team, a natural decline followed the following years. FC Barcelona have won La Liga numerous times this past decade, but over the last 4 seasons the Champions League has been elusive. What makes it even worse is the fact that arch-rivals Real Madrid have won it 3 times in a row, an achievement highly unlikely to ever be seen again in our lifetimes. Which brings us to 2019, specifically the 7th of May 2019, FC Barcelona going to Anfield with a 3-goal advantage over Liverpool in the semi-final of the Champions League. If they make it to the final, they face Tottenham, a team they beat quite comfortably in the group stages of the Champions League, arguably the easiest year for FC Barcelona to win the competition. But what happens? Deja vu. Just like the previous year in Rome, FC Barcelona crumble under the pressure and end up losing 4-0 in arguably the most humiliating loss in the club's history. I have never seen a side play the way that Barcelona played that day at Anfield. Spineless, uninterested, and simply pathetic. And while the players deserve a chunk of the blame for the performance, as I watched the game, there's only one man I could think to blame, and that is the current head coach of FC Barcelona, Ernesto Valverde. But before we talk about Valverde's time at the Camp Nou, let's get to know the man. A former player himself, Valverde was a decent player who played over 300 times in his career, and is actually a former FC Barcelona player. Valverde, the coach, has coached Olympiacos, Espanyol, and most recently Atletico Bilbao. And while it is a bit of a surprise that he was chosen for the job, FC Barcelona fans were open to him being the coach, as he did have some success with Bilbao. And while he has won the Liga 2 times in 2 seasons, an achievement that should not be undermined at all, he has failed short spectacularly in the competition that matters most, and that is the Champions League. Valverde's tactics are simple. He plays a very pragmatic 4-3-3 that sometimes changes to 4-4-2, and that is where the problems begin. There is no one area of the field where FC Barcelona are proficient at. With Guardiola, it was the incredible midfield that gave them 2 Champions Leagues. With Enrique, it was the devastating and free-scoring front 3 of Suarez, Neymar and Messi, which gave them the Champions League. Xavi, Iniesta and Neymar have all left, and while Suarez remains, he has been a shadow of himself in front of goal this season. Messi is as brilliant as ever, but one man can't win you the Champions League. And while Barcelona do have an abundance of talent, sometimes the talent does not perform. Hence, we start with his first problem, his lack of a clear philosophy. It is generally accepted amongst FC Barcelona fans that Valverde's team is the furthest thing from entertaining. But fans will be okay with not being entertained if the results are there. Unfortunately, they are not. Valverde has no clear philosophy in this side. It is not pass the ball and keep possession like Guardiola. It is not fast-paced, quick football of Enrique. And while FC Barcelona do exhibit some of those previous styles on occasion, FC Barcelona fans are often left scratching their heads as to what the style of the team is. Which leads us to the second problem, an over-reliance on Messi. For what FC Barcelona may lack in style, Messi more than overcompensates with his magic and brilliance, which can distract the average fan from the many problems this side has. Now, there is no shame in relying on literally one of the greatest players in history, but without Messi, it is very difficult for me to see this Barcelona side win any trophy at all. In his first season, their loss in the Champions League could have been excused with Valverde trying to find his best team. This time around, there are no excuses, which leads us to his third problem, and arguably one that I feel cost Barcelona the Champions League: his selection of players. Over the course of this season, Valverde has selected numerous starting 11s, shuffling players like a blackjack dealer. So by the time the first leg against Liverpool rolled around, we expected him to know the right players to play. His starting lineup was Ter Stegen, Sergio Roberto, Piqué and Lenglet, Jordi Alba, Vidal, Rakitic, Busquets, Coutinho, Messi and Suarez. A pretty good side on paper that should have caused Liverpool problems. But for those of us who actually saw the game, FC Barcelona at the Camp Nou against Liverpool were the second best. Yes, they did win 3-0, but tactically they were outplayed by a tremendous Liverpool who should have at least gotten an away goal on the night, with Salah hitting the post. But the brilliance of Messi and a bit of good fortune saved Valverde on the night. The problems were clear. Sergio Roberto looked lost at fullback until Semedo came on, and that's when the right flank looked more stable. Lenglet was shaky at centre-back. Busquets, who has put in shocking performances this season, was not up to par again, and Coutinho simply not good enough. Suarez did get the goal, but he also looked pretty lost the rest of the night. Many players who were simply not at the standard that FC Barcelona fans expect, but winning 3-0 and Messi's brilliance covered up for these problems. Then came the second leg. All FC Barcelona needed to do was draw or even lose by 2-0, and that's it, they would be in the final. Now, any sensible coach would have looked at the first leg and made changes to avoid any unlikely misfortunes, but Valverde decided to put out the exact same starting 11. But this time, luck would not be on FC Barcelona's side, and all the holes that were previously loosely covered started to bleed, and Valverde and his tactics, or lack thereof, were finally exposed. 4-0 the final score, with Barcelona putting in an embarrassing performance. For the second year in a row, this Barcelona side have failed to take advantage of their situation and have been dumped out of the Champions League in humiliating fashion. The final problem with Valverde's side is beyond tactics, beyond what can be analysed and measured. It's the passion that the Barcelona players display. This team seems to be uninspired and is void of any personality. It is clear to see that in Europe today, the teams that win are those that take on the personality of their coaches. Jurgen Klopp, Pochettino, Guardiola are prime examples of coaches who have stamped their personality all over their respective teams and are bearing the fruits of their labor. Klopp and Pochettino playing in the Champions League final, and Guardiola winning back-to-back Premier League titles. On the other hand, Valverde does not seem to inspire his players, nor do they seem to seek any inspiration from him. My criticism of Valverde is not that he is a bad coach. Contrary, I think he is a good coach, but it's whether he is good enough to coach a side like Barcelona and take them to the next level is where I have my doubts. FC Barcelona have already bought De Jong and are confident of getting De Ligt and Griezmann, all strong additions to this side. But without a clear philosophy, it will be very difficult next season for the Catalans, and I believe next season will be Valverde's final shot if he is not sacked this season to win the Champions League. If he fails to deliver the cup with the big years, with all the talents that he has, he should be shown the door. So there you have it. Do you think Valverde is the right man for the job, or is he way over his head at the Camp Nou? Tell me what you think in the comments, and if you like the video, share it, subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. Peace.